Welcome back, my friends, for another fun reloading video. Today we're loading up some 62 grain soft points for some 5.56 loads here with the Shooter's World Match Rifle and CCI Small Rifle Primers. We're going to call these the Critter Getters. They'll be great for a varmint, a deer, perhaps even a self-defense round, a bump in the night, a rainy day, you name it. These are going to be sort of our all-purpose, the Critter Getters. So our brass for today, they're all Federal head stamps, 223 Remington, all picked up at the local range. They've all been sized, they've all been fully prepped, swaged, trimmed, chamfered, deburred, the whole 9 yards. And finally we have them primed with our CCI number 400. And here's a nice look at our bullets. This is actually a Hornady product, part number 22731. And I haven't really tested to see how consistent these are yet, so let's just try a few here. 62.2, 62.3, 62.3, 62.3, 62.3, and our last one, 62.2. Wow, these are incredibly consistent. So this should make for some good shooting here. And here is our powder Shooter's World Match Rifle. It's a basically a spherical powder, or little flattened spheres, supposed to flow with superb fluidity through your measurer, or something like that, whatever they say. I'm sure it works just fine. I've only used this powder one time, and that was for some 308 loads. I just threw together with a minimum charge, and yeah. So not much testing with this powder yet, but it's supposedly around the burn rate speed of CFE 223 or lever evolution, somewhere around that area of the burn rate chart. So that should be just about perfect for our 62 grain bullets here. And while we have the jug here, we'll see that they have some data here already. However, no 62 grain, but I would like to note the 2.245 overall length. I think that's just a random number that they pick just so they know that it'll fit into your magazine and you can't yell at them for it not. So we'll get back to this when we look at our load data here in a minute, but I think that's just an arbitrary number that they decided to go with, kind of how Hornady picks 2.25. So on to our load data from the Shooter's World website, where they now have an online interactive manual similar to the Hodgdon site. I was able to find data for the match rifle with a 62 grain projectile. Again, they list the 2.245 overall length that I mentioned that they used with a 55 and also a 69 grain bullet. So I think that's just an arbitrary number they use that I might ignore. But they give us a starting point of 23.5 grains, approximately 2802 feet per second out of whatever length of a random barrel they might have tested from, and a maximum charge of 26.1 grains with a velocity of 3156. And then the Lovex equivalent, they don't have a lot of data for. They had a 65 grain, again with the same overall length, starting at 24.7 and again ending at that 26.1 grains. So I think this might be not particularly the maximum pressure, but we're going to explore that here and do a couple different types of testing to perhaps see where our maximum load can be. So anyways, those are our starting points there. And today we're actually going to do 2 different tests. So this will be sort of different than any other videos we've done so far. So first of all, we're going to play with that seating depth. Here is one at their suggested 2.245 overall length. You can see how far off we are from that cantilever. But we also have plenty of neck tension there and contact with the case, so there's not a worry there. And we could actually stretch it out to 2.26 if we want to fit even more powder into it. But I kind of want it to fit into that cantilever. So we made another dummy round here with an overall length of 2.185. And you can see that we're right into the end of the cantilever. It looks a lot better, but we're gonna have to do some testing and see which one actually performs better. So actually, while I think this might not be a maximum charge for this overall length, with our 2.185 that I'm gonna go with, that could probably be where we're gonna see some pressure if it's a shorter overall length, resulting in less case capacity. So today, we're actually gonna be doing two different tests. So we're gonna start with our maximum charge of 26.1, and we're going to reduce this by 2/10 increments until we have 10 shots. People like to call this the Satterlee loading method or a velocity ladder. Basically, the goal is to see if there's a node in velocity where we can have a forgiving charge weight that we can perhaps use on a progressive press or a powder thrower to keep a consistent velocity regardless of maybe the case capacity or whether or not our powder measure throws as accurately as we want. So here we have our 10 shots listed, giving us a starting charge of 24.3. We're also using our shorter overall length of 2.185, and hopefully, once again, we'll find a node where maybe all three of these charges or two charges have a very similar velocity, so we can maybe find a forgiving charge weight where we can use maybe 25.6 if both 25.5 and 25.7 showed a very similar velocity. So hopefully we'll find some sort of velocity node in here. However, if we're not seeing any sort of maximum pressure signs or over flattening of our primers or our case heads getting torn up, we can still increase this charge and continue to find our maximum pressure. If that's something you're chasing is velocity or even a higher accuracy or velocity node, but that's for later on, and we're still going to start within the boundaries given to us by the manufacturers. Along with our ladder velocity nodey Satterlee method testy thing up here, we're also going to be shooting a couple groups to see if perhaps there's an accuracy node anywhere within this range. So I'm going to be shooting 5 shots at 24.5, bump up a half grain to 25, and another half grain to 25.5. So this will also give us extra velocity information. Maybe something will match up and we'll be able to find a load from any of that. Or if some of these shoot better than others, that can help us with a starting point as well. So we went ahead and scribbled our charges on our cases there. And I've got my first charge, or rather my maximum charge of 26.1 weighed out here. So let's see what kind of case fill we're looking at, so we can sort of see it down in there. I've seen a fuller case of CFE 223 with a similar charge, so I don't think we'll be totally topped off on capacity. We'll still have a little bit of a shaker action going on. Not quite compressed, but who knows, this could be good, bad. We'll find out one way or another, but I think as far as a max load for today's testing purposes, that looks just about perfect. And let's get a bullet seated on here and work on down the line. So we've got our dies set from our dummy round, and we'll try our first one here with our maximum charge, see if there's any compression, and that might be able to tell us a little bit more later on. All right, that's just about where we want it, right in the middle or the top portion of the cantilever. Yeah, my case has a little dent, but that'll fire form out. However, it might give us an inconsistent velocity reading with different case capacity. Oh no! Anyways, yeah, whatever. We'll load up the rest of these, get those 10 seated, and then move on to our groups of 5. There's our second charge, or rather 9th charge of 25.9. Down to 25.7. And we'll just give her the old reach around here and the old dump and spill. It doesn't take much longer than using a scoop. As long as you don't go over, it's not a pain. There we see it jumping. And as long as it stops just under, we can trickle up. Stop that swaying. Perfect. A couple of the little flakes of powder like to stick on the funnel, so make sure to get all those. And down to 25.5. $25.5. All right, I'll get these knocked out and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we have our first 10 loaded up with our ladder testing here. And if we do find a node in there somewhere, the next step would be to load up maybe 5 or 10 of one charge and see what kind of deviations you're getting within what you think would have been a node. And if it's in fact our velocity node we thought, we can then work on our seating depth, our overall length, and that'll help either open up or perhaps shrink our groups a little bit. But we're done with our first 10 here, so I'm going to put these in the box and we'll start on our 5-shot groups here and get on with that. And here's our last charge of 25.5 grains for that 5-shot group. And again, this test, in contrast to the other one, is to hopefully find a good sort of accuracy node, as well as see if our random charge weights we chose have any sort of close or small standard deviations, which could be another shortcut to finding a useful load. And that's our last one. Man, it's somewhat hard to tell, but we can see all of our powder. And at the bottom of the screen is our starting charge of 24.5, and then you can see it's sort of increasing by about a half a grain, and then again a full grain to 25.5. You can see the increase in powder capacity taken. So we're going to get all these bullets seated, and we're just on our last few here for seating. Next up, we're going to give them a nice light crimp there, just to perhaps even out any neck tension or anything like that. Who knows, I could make it worse and just crush the bullets. No idea. Sometime we'll have to test without crimping or different crimping variations. But for now, we'll get out the factory crimp die and run our 25 rounds through, and we'll be good to go. So we have our crimp die set from our first round there. We'll just throw that on the floor. You can see a crimp. As far as to what degree of crimp, I don't know. I just kind of screwed it down and it started to contact. And then we went about another quarter turn or so. So we'll go ahead and knock out all of our crimping. And we'll be ready to head out to the range. And just one more on the crimp. And we have our 25 rounds ready to go. That was our 25.5 grain group there. So we've got our Satterlee method and our 3 groups right there ready to go. Alrighty, that is going to wrap it up for today. So here we have our 10 loads for the Satterlee ladder velocity testing, and then our 3 groups there for accuracy testing with just random charges we picked. We can certainly try some different powders if we can't find anything with this, but we have plenty of exploring to do, both with the velocity and accuracy, but we all know accuracy is king. So, you know, if this low charge of 24.5 grains just shoots one whole groups, then screw trying to reach the top end or anything else, because I want my bullets to go where I'm pointing. So really accuracy is the goal, but more velocity is always going to be better. And anyways, we have plenty of them to work with, so that should be fun. Anyways, if you enjoy this sort of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow me over on Instagram as well. Stay tuned for the range report. We're going to get these out, get our chrono data, shoot some groups, and we will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one!